I went from 1400 to 2100 in just 60 days, and I'm gonna tell you exactly what I did to get there. The only thing I cared about during these games were the weaknesses. A weakness is a square that is attacked more times than it is defended.
Look at this dude.
Knowing that, let's jump into the second game of this series. Alright, we open up with a Sicilian with Smith-Morra Gambit. He takes with the queen, so I go knight to c6 with the tempo on the queen. Goes back, we develop our pieces, all very good. He pins my knight, so I go bishop d7. Now he goes a3. I don't understand that move at all. I don't know what that does. If anyone has any idea, please let me know. Now, whenever I have these two pawns right here on e7 and d6, this bishop is not very happy on this diagonal. So I go g6 and bishop g7. Now, I go a6, he goes bishop c4 and rook c8. He gets a little bit scared about this idea, so he goes bishop to a2. That's fine. I castle, he wants to go for my bishop, that's fine. I will centralize my pieces. Takes, and knight to f3. I could take that and I'm better. You have double pawns, you haven't even castled yet, and my pieces are very active. However, I want to go for the weakness. This pawn is not defended by anybody. So he goes queen to c1, defending the pawn. And now I wanted to go queen to c7 with a very interesting idea. If he castles here, for example, this knight is only defended by this pawn. So we could just take the pawn. And when they take back, we take the knight, and now we're up a pawn. You might say, well, are you sure about that? Yes, I am. Are you totally sure? Yes, I am. We're up a pawn, and that's it. But I didn't do any of that, because after queen to c7, they could actually just take the knight, and that's it. The threat is gone. So instead, I went bishop to g4. He goes back, and now we have another tactic. Knight takes a3, distracting the defender of this knight. When they take it, we take the knight, and that's it. However, I was scared of bishop takes f7. You might say, wait, what? Well, after we take the bishop, now the bishop is not blocking the rook anymore, and they can take the knight with the rook, and the pawn is still defending the knight. So that's why I didn't go for that. Instead, I just went knight to e5. He attacks my bishop, I go back, now he castles, and b5. Queen to d1, and now I put my bishop on a better square. Now he goes knight to f3, which doesn't make a lot of sense because this pawn, as you can see, is attacked 2 times. And it was defended by the knight right here, by 2 knights. But he went knight to f3, and now the knight is not defending the pawn anymore. So that's a free pawn, and I'm gonna take it. Thank you. He takes my knight, I take back, and now he attacks my bishop, which is a weakness. The bishop is not defended by anybody. However, before you attack something, you have to take care of your own weaknesses. So I take the pawn on c2 with the tempo on the queen. Now he goes queen to d5. Now notice that the knight on g5 is not defended by anyone. So we just go e6, attacking the queen and the knight at the same time. Now he can go queen to d2, defending the knight and getting the queen out of danger. However, my opponent went queen to b7, and that's a free knight. Now he went bishop takes e6, and I cannot take that because he would take my king, and I don't like it when that happens. So instead, my brain turned off a little bit, and I went queen to d8. He takes my rook, I take back, and lucky me, his brain turned off now, and he was like, you know what, that's a free pawn. And I'm like, are you sure about that? And my opponent resigned. Now my rating is 1598, so close to 1600. So I had to play one more game for the night. And now we go into the next game, and you're not gonna believe this. This is the exact same opening. Smith-Morra Gambit, and he takes with the queen, I go knight c6, but now he goes queen to e3. We develop our pieces, all very good. And I notice that he wants to castle long. So I want to put my bishop on the longest diagonal on the board. Bishop g7. We keep developing, and now I go a6. I want to prevent this knight from being a little bit too happy. He goes king b1. I put my queen out of the x-ray of the rook. Bishop d3 and b5. And now he goes back with the bishop. I thought maybe he mouse slipped or something, but then I go bishop b7 and he goes back again. So this guy's just dancing around with the bishop, not doing anything else. So I ask him, do you want to keep the bishop there? And he goes back for the last time. I put my rook on c8, so he can't really move the knight anywhere because the pawn would fall, and he goes rook to c1. Now we push the h-pawns like there's nothing else on the board. And he goes f4. Now I go knight to h5 with the idea of knight g3, attacking the bishop and the rook at the same time. But he takes out with the bishop, I take with the rook, and he goes knight to f3. And now after rook to c5, look at this. Look at all these pieces pointing at the knight. Of course, he gets scared and he goes e5, blocking the way of the bishop. Now I go knight to d5 to get rid of that knight and have my bishop pointing at the king. He goes knight d4, and I think that right now is a great time to launch an attack with the pawns. And he wants to do the same thing. So now we have a bit of a pawn race right here. and nobody cares about anything. We're just pushing pawns to see who gets there faster. Now he goes a3, and it looks like my attack is just gone. There's nothing else. So I have to make a move to confuse my opponent a little bit. And I go rook to c2, which is a horrible move. But he didn't take it. He was afraid of opening things up around his king. I take on g6, he takes back, and now that his rook is not on the first file anymore, now I take on c1. When he takes back, I set up a trap. Oh wait, my bishop. Holy shit, can't believe I missed that. And he takes it. He falls into my trap. They have a very serious weakness. The bishop on c1 is attacked by 2 pieces, but it is also defended by 2 pieces. So what if we distract one of the defenders of the bishop? And I go bishop e4, sacrificing both my bishops. If you move the king out, then the king is not defending the bishop anymore, and we can take twice with a checkmate. But if they take with the queen, which is what my opponent did, now the queen is not defending the bishop, and queen to c1 is checkmate. And now we're 1644, and going up real fast and aggressive, with the very simple concept of the weaknesses. Part 3 is coming up in a couple days, and the games are absolutely mind-blowing. So if you don't want to miss it, subscribe and turn on the notifications, and I will see you in the next game.